Hey, everybody. Welcome back to AI Diatribe. I am your host, Jason Lowe, and I am joined today with a couple of great guests. One you have seen a number of times, a gentleman by the name of Matt Konwiser, who works for IBM. And I'm wonderfully happy to have him back because he always brings the noise and he brings the funk. And we are going to bring both of those in a conversation today with Alex Hurtado, who is joining us from sunny Chicago at the moment. Alex is the Director of Technical Product Marketing at Anvilogic. And we're going to talk a little bit about cybersecurity and AI today because that is the realm in which Alex does all of her work. So before we get going, let's let everybody get a little bit of an idea of how you got to where you are. Alex, why cybersecurity speaks to you, and what your favorite color is.
Thank you so much, Jason, and Matt for having me. My name is Alex Hurtado. It's super interesting sitting on this side of the house. I host a detection engineering podcast myself. I got into the space a while back directly from school, directly into a rotational program, landing into a cybersecurity team that sold cybersecurity SaaS products, directly reporting to Matt here. And over the last, 5, 6, almost 7 years, I've evolved my career into this little intersection of product marketing, detection engineering, and the SIEM world. I am a self-proclaimed technical marketer, but overall just longtime student of the SOC, the SIEM buyer psych. So an interesting pathway into this space. Wouldn't have it any other way. And my favorite color changes a lot, but probably I am also colorblind. So I would have to say like navy blue, because that's
Okay.
everybody sees that color.
Navy blue. Well, Matt, can you give us a little refresher on you, what it is that you've been doing lately, specifically as it relates to the AI and the security lens? And could you also give us your definition of a SOC and a SIEM and talk about what those are and what they mean for the listeners that are not necessarily cybersecurity proficient?
Sure. So Matt Konwiser here. I was in cybersecurity dedicated for, 10, 11 years. That's how I met Alex for the first time. I did AI work in cybersecurity at that point. I'm still doing AI work now. My primary job is to throw gas on fires, and I really enjoy doing that privately and as a function of my job. SOC and SIEM, huh? You didn't ask me the easy one, my favorite color. The answer is I don't know. So I guess that's a hard one.
You know what? I've heard them referred to like this, that the SOC is kind of the team and the SIEM is the tool. Would you say that that's a good analogy?
So, I mean, yes, it's not a bad analogy. My personal take on things is a little different than most, and I'm usually argued with, and I usually end up conceding those arguments. But for me, the SOC is the program, right? So it's not about the people or the team or anything else. The SOC is everything, because you can't have a SOC without people, without team, without visibility, without references. You just can't. SIEM is just one piece of it, but the fundamental dilemma that we always had with SIEM, and I challenged many a CIO about this, some of whom got visibly angry at it, and that is there's not a single piece of IT infrastructure in any business anywhere that isn't relevant to a security investigation until you know what the security issue. And so the SIEM has to collect all of it so that the SOC can figure out how to action it. So that the two of them are symbiotic. I don't necessarily differentiate one as being simply a tool, but there's codependence and there's symbiosis there. The fundamental problem with SIEM that we've always had, which is where AI comes in, is you never know what you're looking for until you need to look for something. And then you never know what you need to look at until you know what you're looking for. And that becomes a big problem. So those are the connections I see.
Interesting. Okay, so for those that aren't familiar, at least with the acronym portion of this, SOC stands for Security Operations Center, and SIEM is SIEM, is what the acronym is stated as, which is Security Information and Event Management, usually a system that is meant to facilitate these things that we're talking about today. So thank you very much for your analogy. I think it definitely works, and it kind of leads us into our first little topic here, AI. cybersecurity. It's so funny. There are so many people I hear that are like, oh no, AI is going to be the death of cybersecurity. We've got ourselves quantum computing now, which is going to destroy all sorts of encryption as we know it, and blah, blah, hiss, blah, blah. So, one thing I want to toss out for us to discuss now is why is it that cybersecurity professionals are not that worried about AI? Or rather, I guess I should say, why does it have this big credibility gap in the cybersecurity space, especially in SOCs? Alex, do you want to start off with that?
Yeah, it is. It is a very, very unspoken about problem. It falls very flat in cybersecurity, especially when marketing. That's kind of what we've seen flood our LinkedIn feeds nowadays. But I fundamentally think it's because in security, you really can't fake the funk. These are some of the people we're selling into are super, super smart. They'll really sniff out the BS real quick, and real credibility and real AI credibility really comes from understanding how to do the real work itself, right? If you fundamentally understand the practice, and slapping AI powered across everything without really explaining what it does or really showing exactly what it is that you're trying to do with your given use case for AI is going to shot your credibility real quick. And I think that that's the level of trust that hasn't really been built yet, and that's why we're seeing a lot of it go in flames right now.
Interesting.
And
Yeah,
just to
you
be clear,
see that AI powered security everywhere. It's like
Everywhere.
it's everybody's call sign, but it also makes everybody kind of go, geez, whatever. Okay. Matt, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Please go
no,
ahead.
you're all good. You were helping me with acronyms earlier that I forgot, so I just figured I would elaborate. So when Alex said BS earlier, that was bullshit, right? Not bot spam.
Okay.
Just to
Good
be
to know.
clear.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I just figured I would clarify that point. If we're doing the glossary as we go, let's just.
That's right. And AI as an artificial intelligence.
Oh, good. I'm glad we got that one clear. Okay. Well, all right. So AI powered security makes a lot of people go, okay, big whoop. Well, AI does have some practical use in the
It
cybersecurity
sure
space.
does.
We have to target exactly what that is. And so, how can AI really, save cybersecurity professionals some time? How does it maybe perhaps reduce noise? I mean, I'm really interested to hear how you're going to address that. Maybe lower a little bit of risk. In other words, how is it that AI can augment the capabilities of a cybersecurity professional?
The best way to do it is to apply it on against the work that nobody likes doing at all, right, to begin with. And that way we all are much happier, right, practitioners or as analysts, and we all evolve to the next thing. We think more strategically. But there's a lot of work if we think about the SOC, right, the Security Operations Center, and all the different SecOps workflows that go all the way from trying to find the data that you need, right, to build a particular detection on, to all of the plumbing work with that, but also the building of the detection itself. I don't think as humans we should be expected to know every single flavor and like nuance of every single cloud provider, schema that's out there. It's almost impossible to keep up with, especially with large organizations that have multiple flavors of the cloud. When an LLM does a very good job at recognizing, these frameworks or these different definitions, these different ways that they come in, right? The same event's going to come in 5 different ways across the different clouds, but they're really good at knowing that. Also with MITRE is a common universal language we've all kind of accepted as the official language of the SOC, right? It's a framework that really maps out all of the different tactics and techniques that attackers take.
MITRE stands for.
I actually don't know. I think it's a really long word, but it is a framework, and it is you can go to mitre.gov as a website. But it's we've accepted that, and LLMs are really good at reading that. So if you're telling me that I can use an LLM to create a detection for a cloud that it knows the data source, format really well, and then have it cross-reference MITRE, which it knows that really well as well, and it can build a detection for me, I mean, why wouldn't I want to do that? So lots of ways that we can accelerate the craft of the analyst. Also, right now I'm seeing a lot of organizations use it on more so the alert analysis side of things. So once an alert is generated by a SIEM. You could throw it into like a GPT wrapper and it'll give you a good idea of kind of what happened. And in that case, I think that's probably one of the earlier uses. I think we're all at the point where if we're not doing that, we're running like 2x slower, like at a snail pace. I think everyone's universally accepted to add in GPT as like our little sidekick to not only answer our emails, but also understand everything that we're looking at and stitch it together.
Well, so for those that are curious, MITRE stands for, and it's spelled MITRE, is the
Yes.
acronym, stands for MIT Research Establishment.
Really?
Yeah, go
That's something
figure.
I didn't know. Yeah.
It's originally got lineage from MIT in the 50s, and today MITRE is simply the legal name of the nonprofit, and it's not used as an acronym, but that's where the acronym actually came from.
Well,
I got a
of
different result. Mine says it's a tool that cuts things at 45-degree angles. So I like yours
MITRE
better.
saw, there we go. Okay.
let's see what ChatGPT says. MITRE acronym. My chat says MITRE isn't actually an acronym for anything, but originally it stood for Massachusetts Institute of Technology Research. Yeah, okay. There
we go. All
So we
right.
got
Yeah.
there.
We got there.
We got there.
Roundabout way, but we got there. Matt, anything
So-
to add to what she said?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and disagree with you on that one there.
On what part? Which part?
Absolutely not. That was an Office Space reference. So the way I like to, because we like analogies, and Jason, I know that the audience we talk to isn't always super deeply technical. So I'll use the analogy of panning for gold. When you have a giant shovel full of mud and you think that there's gold in there, but you have no idea where it is, the very first thing you have to do is wash all the obvious stuff that isn't gold off of the pile. That's what we would call the level 1 SOC analyst. Those people just sift through everything to find the bits that might be something, maybe. And it's the obvious low-hanging fruit. And what they do is they take all the stuff that could be something and pass it to level 2. And the level 2 folks look at the rocks and they're like, well, does it break differently? Does it sound right? Does it have the right weight? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You know what? These are the ones that are most likely gold, and this is all the stuff that definitely isn't. And then it goes to the level 3, and they're looking at it, and they're doing the metallurgical analysis and everything else, and they're saying, yeah, this is definitely gold. So where the AI helps the SOC the most is with the level 1. Because it's really easy to say, here's all the stuff that definitely isn't a piece of gold or a potential piece of gold. Go through all this noise and just find the lumps of rocks that an actual human being should take a look at. That's one piece of it. Now, the other side that Alex was talking about that I absolutely violently agree with is using it for regulatory and for governance type material. So like, here's all the rules, here's all the structure, here's all the things you need to worry about, here's all the compliance, here's all the frameworks. Take all of this, munch it together, and give us something we can work with without having one human being having to remember 47 different pieces of regulatory information when they look at every possible rock that could be a piece of gold. So there's two different approach angles for the way you can use AI in SOC. And it's very much in agreement with what Alex was talking about. I'm just giving you a slightly different metaphor for how to look at the way it can be applied and why.
Well, I don't know how comfortable I feel with calling, cybersecurity intrusions gold, but okay. Yeah, we're okay there.
When a cybersecurity researcher finds one, you will understand why it's gold.
Yes, you will
because
act
it is
like
about
it's
the
gold.
only
I
thing
found
that
one, I
excites
found
them.
one.
That's it. That's what
It is.
they get excited about.
No, it does. It does model. I mean, people get into it because they wanna solve puzzles, they wanna find something, and it really is it drives adrenaline, right, or excites adrenaline to find something like that. In the SOC, these are a group of people as well that don't have a lot of time. It's like constantly like fires, always, all the time. Everything is always a big deal, and if you can use AI to give them time back, right? Time saved, not chasing something that is not gold, right? Or time not spent on rewriting a broken rule that could have been done much better if you just give it every single which way the schema should actually be written, because you can't expect a human to know every single intricacy. So if you save yourself time on that, that's what real ROI looks like, time saved. Because if you ask any SOC, what would your team do with an extra 60 hours? They would, oh man, the list would be endless.
For some reason, the analogy that popped up in my head is the whack-a-mole game at the state fair, where,
Yeah.
cybersecurity analysts are just basically trying to hit whatever they can. And when they actually do hit something full flush and make serious impact, that gets you excited and makes you want to hit the next one. I don't know. Might be pertinent, might not. Let's talk a little bit about these use cases for Gen AI in cybersecurity. So it's funny because Alex, when you sent us out some information pertaining to some of the stuff you've been working on, you sent two statistics that were quite interesting, and I know that you're excited to discuss one of them. One of those, and by the way, these statistics are very much, shall we say, not complementary. They're a little bit opposing of each other. The first one says that
Quite opposites.
Google says that 88% of early adopters of generative AI are seeing some sort of a positive AI. That's fantastic. But then MIT, who interestingly enough is the same institution that was in the MITRE acronym for a while, but MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, comes along and publishes a report that says that 95% of generative AI pilots are failing. I get the sense that perhaps you don't believe that, Alex.
I do not. I do not. Well, with these, with these contradicting stats, you got to ask yourself, okay, like, so which is it? Which one actually show our lived reality? And I do tend to lean more on the positiveness from it, like the Google Cloud version, which is a little bit biased because they are a vendor. If a vendor says that their AI is positive, I mean, that's the narrative they want to push. But yes, in the practice, it really does actually show that reality. I think I wouldn't go as far as saying it replaces an analyst of any kind. I would never say that we can officially save 2-3 FTs a year, but because if by saving hours, one could really make that calculation, right? How many FTs am I saving myself? But I think it does help offset maybe those long lunch hours, right? That you go and you get a pedicure during lunch, right? It helps offset maybe that extra, week vacation that I now have to take because being with a German, he taught me that we should be taking 2 weeks vacations. And by the end of week 1, I'm kind of tired and I want to go home. But
Yeah,
it
you
does
are working too hard. Yeah, there's way too much work going on right now.
literally, but I think it does offset those things, and so that when you leave on vacation, you're not inundating your team with your work.
Well, it's interesting because AI, at least the practical application of AI, it's more rapidly being seen how it's not let's replace this entire process or let's replace this entire person. It's let's figure out what little minute part of this process that we can actually address with AI or what element of this person's work we can address with AI. That's got to be extraordinarily true in the cybersecurity space as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially for those low value things that aren't helping anybody's career. I just had someone on my podcast that they kind of like the level 1 analyst, the level 1 task that Matt was talking about earlier. It becomes almost just a button pressing game. It's like, dude, that really what you want for your career is just to press all these buttons in the same exact order when all of that can be automated? No, you want to do something more fun for your life, like more interesting. And his team built this really cool agentic reg index that stores all of his previous alerts so that every time any new alert comes in, it's compared against the previous to give a determination of how likely it's going to be either a true positive or a false one. And his job turned from once tuning, basically adjusting rules that weren't given real things, to now tuning his LLM model. And I was like, wow, that just made you probably $10,000 more expensive for your next career move.
So I'm laughing, Alex, because the whole idea of what you're talking about, we used to call reference sets, if you remember that 10 years ago.
I remember. Statics.
We used to, that was that. It was static, and you had to write it in the way it did it. But that was one of our big differentiators was we had reference sets, so you could trap a threat indicator and you could store it as a reference set, and it would then iterate on the reference set list and then continue to use that as future rules. And we didn't need generative AI to do it. We didn't really need any AI to do it. Frankly, it was just a static rule set and regex, but it was there. So I have a question for both of you, actually. Now, I don't remember where this study was, so I apologize for not being able to cite it, but it was about 2 years ago, and it said that the number one, it might have been actually a Deloitte study, now that I'm thinking about it, but it said that one of the most successful use cases for generative AI by 35% was cybersecurity across all enterprise businesses. So I thought that was interesting and optimistic. So I'll throw that out there as a stat. The other thing I will throw out with regards to this MIT report is that it didn't actually say that 95% of all AI pilots fail. What it said was that 95% of all pilots using custom, small, homegrown models don't go to production. But it also said that 60% of all large language generally trained model pilots don't go into production. So 40% or 8 times more succeed with large language models than with homegrown or custom small models. So it said a number of different things in that, right? You can read between a lot of lines. And what's really interesting though, and this is one of the problems that we have, but it's also why, Alex, you now have 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. So congratulations on that. But
Yeah,
we
thank
play
you.
the social media game, right? So the social media game, if you look at the news that came out of that report, every headline was MIT says 95% of all AI projects fail. 95% of all. I
Every
mean, it
single
literally
one.
just bang, 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 right? And those are the people that didn't read the report. Those are the
That's
people that
right.
were looking to be first on the social media pile to break some damning news. And that almost kind of relates to what we were talking about earlier about our PDoom scores too, right? Like the world is collapsing because 95% of projects are failing. Well, are they though? So I'm stuck in the middle between the Google report and the MIT report on that one. But it's very interesting to me though that at least a year or two ago, the number one successful use case for it was cybersecurity as well.
Taking a stat and pushing your own narrative has existed since the beginning of time, or since the beginning of when we could create newspapers. Also, for anyone trying to look up the MIT paper and the stat, it has since then been taken down because Kevin Beaumont, who refers to himself as a cybersecurity weatherman, he roasted it so hard that they just had to take it down. They were just getting so much backlash for it because of what Matt is talking about. So many vendors tried to use that to their advantage and or to their disadvantage, right? To I don't know, cause some chaos there. But I that also gets me thinking about AI's impact on critical thinking, right? You and me and Jason, we're going to read behind the lines. Like we have kind of the spidey senses of, okay, did this really mean that? Maybe someone, I don't know, someone younger, someone older, my grandmother, rest her soul, she would have believed it at firsthand, right? And the less we let AI, or the more we let AI think for us, the less critical thinking happens, which is I'm seeing a lot of that too, even with myself in some days.
You're not wrong. And it's really interesting that you mentioned that because here we go, Matt, right? There are a number of skills that we talk about that people are going to need. And we don't need to get into the details of all of them and really get, into the 5 C's and stuff like that. But critical thinking is probably first and foremost the one that is suffering because, as Matt likes to say, if you're delegating decision making, how can you exactly bring critical thinking to bear to make it so that you're really analyzing, well, but is that really the right decision to make based on the information provided? Or is there something wrong with the information provided? Or is there a different way to do it? So you're absolutely right. And this is also a problem in academia. I mean, I'm in academia now. I kind of have a foot in industry and a foot in academia. So I've got a really interesting perspective and viewpoint on this. And that is a very big concern because one of the areas where critical thinking is supposed to be taught and really supposed to be brought to bear is in academia, but we're finding that a lot of students are coming in, they're already relying on AI to find answers
Too much.
rather than to actually think it through for themselves and figure out, where are the holes in this? You
Mm.
can't figure out the holes in a process unless you know the process. You can't
And by the
figure out
way,
the
that
holes in
was
a decision without knowing why the decision was reached and how you actually got from point A to point B. What were you going to say, Matt?
well, and that was actually another MIT study that did not get pulled. That was, your brain on ChatGPT, right? And that was exactly the findings. It was if you allow it to take the wheel, if you don't apply critical thinking, then your brain becomes less active. You are doing less. You have cognitive decline was the big SAT words that they were using for that. And again, I think that some of the parameters of the study were inherently a bit flawed, but the result is the same, and the result is valid, right? If I want to write a book, I can now go to ChatGPT and just say, write me a book. I don't care about what, just write me something. And then I don't even have to
Movies,
read it. I could just
the best,
publish it.
the movies that we were just talking about earlier. Now, my German, he's constantly saying, "Oh, ChatGPT wrote this," because it's just not delicate anymore.
Do you think this is why everybody really, I mean, forgive me, but when I was a kid, I mean, growing up in the 80s and becoming a young adult in the 90s, and for those of you that are doing the math, no, I'm not really that old, I promise, I swear. But growing up in the 80s and being a young adult in the 90s, it's so funny that today it seems that there is a true nostalgia for 80s and 90s stuff, not necessarily because it's fashionable or because it's different, but because it's truly original. And there doesn't seem to
Yeah.
be much copycat going on, or it doesn't seem to follow certain patterns. There really is a real, shall we say, emphasis on original thinking and original creativity perspectives on stuff that comes out from the 80s and 90s. We're talking about film, we're talking about music, we're talking about literature, we're talking about the way that the business world grew and matured through the 80s and the 90s. I mean, Alex, you're of a different generation than me for certain, and Matt to a little bit of a lesser degree. What's your perspective on that and how it relates to technology these days?
I think it all goes back to the credibility aspect. Like, you're in academia, right? And when these kids are learning the practice of the job that they're going to go into, it's because of the being able to do the manual work itself, right? Even if you were given a calculator, you still had to learn the whole formula, right? And do it all from critical thinking. But once you're only entirely dependent on the GPT, oh, that just completely changes the game, for quite literally everything. And then that you grow up, eh, when shit hits the fan, excuse my French, you're not gonna really know how to deal with incidents properly, right? That's gonna really show, and it's gonna impact your performance, right? I'm talking in your career. So that, in and of itself, I think that also that has everything to do with credibility, and why we constantly find ourselves in this nostalgia of the 90s, right? We're never gonna have all of those things again. This book series that I've been loving, and I think a lot of women as well also will resonate with, like A Court of Thorn and Roses or Sarah J. Maas. Like this, are you guys, your wives probably have told you about this, no? It's like
If I was
fairies.
married, she would have, but you know
We
what? I
have
tried to read it and I got like
bookshelves of it.
maybe 20% of
Well,
the way through the book and I had to throw up and throw it away. So, yeah,
but it's so good because there's a lot of backlash on it, because people are saying it's literally a combination, a modge podge of all of these storylines that have done well in the past when they were originally written. And she just knew that those were going to work. It has a little bit of Harry Potter, it has a little bit of Lord of the Rings, it has a little bit of Twilight, right? And it's just kind of mixed into a different storyline. And that's why we all love it. And it's like we all respect the craft, but it was probably written by ChatGPT. Okay, I hope Sarah J. Maas never hears this. But maybe that
So,
is beautiful. I don't know.
but see, now that's an interesting point, right? The quintessential example I can think of about how things have devolved in movie making is horror movies and
Okay.
monster movies, right? So if you watch It or The Blob or The Thing or
Invasion of the Body
Kindred,
Snatchers.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, maybe not Killer Clowns from Outer Space. If you watched all the Alien's another great one. If you watch all of
Mm,
those from the 80s, they are scary. And the reason why they're scary is because what you are seeing on the screen is real. Not that monsters exist in real life, but that thing you're seeing is a puppet or a suit that is being staffed by humans who are operating it with actual fake blood and actual effects and sounds, and the actors are interacting with that thing in real life. It's not, I mean, if you've ever seen the making of Avengers with what Josh Brolin wore, like he basically just wore a unileotard that was just purple with little white dots all over it, and then everything else was just computer generated.
yeah.
The Hulk thing, they have Mark Ruffalo with like a giant like stick with a giant Hulk head so that people know what to look at, and then everything else is added after the fact. Like, because you can do things so easily with computers now, people aren't
It's
taking the
less
time
sought after.
to build. And also, like the Millennium Falcon, not that I happen to know what that
You
looks
have
like,
it.
but
Mm-mm.
you know, that was made out of just random parts, right? Like George Lucas is like, just build me something. And they looked at what they had and they created something very concrete, and it became a legend. So I think that it's not just maybe a loss of creativity, but I think it's become, going back to what we were talking about earlier with cognitive decline, it's just become so easy to
Yeah.
build with CGI and AI that people
Yeah.
aren't building models and real things anymore. But there's a second piece of that, which is the plagiarism element. And I'll give you a quick cascading example. I am an Iron Maiden fan.
Okay.
Run
I
to the
am
hills, Matt. Run to the hills.
I am unabashedly an Iron Maiden fan. And did you know that the inspiration for most of their music came from the William Tell Overture?
I had heard that. Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yes. So a piece of music that was written in the 1800s to be part of, a set called William Tell. The beat, the gallop beat that Iron Maiden patented in the hard rock genre actually was a direct iteration of William Tell Overture. So they steal it? Like, do we get mad at Iron Maiden, like, because they took somebody else's idea? Or do we applaud them for taking it and turning it into something entirely different that launched a whole genre of its own, right? Harry Potter books and Sarah Moss and Rowling and Tolkien, they all had inspirations. If you were to hyperanalyze it, you'd find a root of it through something else. We're not upset at them, but we're upset at everybody now that's being inspired from those people that were then being inspired from something else. Like,
Something else.
is it hypocritical, or is it just so easy to create now that the skill is gone and now we're just coming at everybody for that?
Oh, yeah. I don't know how many times you can remake certain movies. I mean, how many Supermans have we had over the last little while? How many Spider-Mans have we had over the last little while? You're right. I mean, where is the original idea behind this? But bringing this back to the domain of technology, and one thing that I want to talk about, at least as it relates to critical thinking, that really kind of went through my head is AI is causing a lack of critical thinking. But what's stopping us from using AI to augment or to even do some critical thinking for us, right? I think, okay, great. We can say, AI, create this, and it goes and creates this. But we can also say to AI, hey, find the holes in that. Find the things that are wrong. What am I missing? What is it that I am not looking at when I'm analyzing this? And there's nothing wrong with taking AI and doing that and assisting our critical thinking methods. Would you agree or would you disagree? I mean, this AI seems to be a different kind of tool where we can use AI to critique AI and to make sure that we're not relying on AI too much. Agree or disagree, Matt? Well, this one ended up being so fun and so long that we had to cut it into 2 episodes. Join me next time as I continue this fantastic and timely conversation with Alex and Matt. We'll dive further into AI and the cybersecurity realm, and we'll even talk a little bit about our P-Doom predictions. See you next time.